Okay, for all of you that don't know what I'm talking about, you got to go back to 1990 and watch a movie called Home Alone. It's a classic jump off. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. Anyway, welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you guys stopping by very much. Moving along with the tournament, I actually skipped a couple rounds because we had kind of those little typical, like, 10, 12 move draws, whatever, like the little repetition draws, round 3 and 4. So, I was afraid of that. I was like, man, I mean, it's, I don't know. Personally, I kind of wish that they would play it through, But, I mean, not everybody cares. Anyways, so all my people in the Philippines, magandang umaga, kamusta na, Masaya kong makita kang muli. Appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. And I got the rest of the languages at the end for you guys, so don't worry. Anybody that's coming from, Iran or who does speak Farsi or Persian, I will say salam and khayli mamnoon. Appreciate you guys very much for stopping by and taking a look at my stuff. But I do have the round 5 game from Wesley So versus Alireza Firouzja. So if you guys are ready to go, let's take a look, see what we got for the game. All right, so we got knight to f3. We got d5, d4. Knight comes to f6. We got c4, e6. So we have many different options, as you guys saw before. I mean, we had like the Catalan, g3. You got some knight to f3 situations. If you really are sad about the bishop coming to b4, you can push at a3. Much rarer lines. But we do see knight coming to c3. We got knight b to d7. Bishop comes to g5. So as you can see, white is doing a really good job at developing their pieces. Everything is pretty open. So we have h6. Got bishop back to h4. And we have bishop to e7. Another line that's possible that you'll kind of see creep up a little bit later anyway. After knight b to d7 is to take on d5 with the pawn. Pawn takes d5. Do kind of like a little exchange situation. And then play bishop g5. You got h6. Bishop comes to h4. Bishop to e7. e3. c6. Bishop to d3. It's fairly similar. I mean, they're both really legitimately played. It's just an alternative. But like I said, we did have e3. So we got castles by black. We got rook coming to c1. Just naturally preparing if you got bishop dropping back at some point. Taking here. You do have a nice little open line and open diagonal to this pawn. But that's easily rectified by just playing c6. So you got c5 coming. Pawn takes d5. Knight takes d5. Now, like I said before, you did have the pawn taking on d5. So you had pretty much the same situation, except the knight did take here. So you got bishop takes e7. Knight takes e7. And then you had bishop to e2. We got b6. So as you can see, white and black, they're almost finished with their development. So they're both doing fairly good. It's a fairly even game up to this point. So we got castles by white. Bishop comes to b7. We have pawn takes c5. Knight takes c5. We got b4, just knocking the knight. Knight comes back to d7. We have knight to b5. So as you guys can see, I mean, pretty much black, they only really need to worry about their queen. For a lot of you guys, maybe that might be unfamiliar with the opening. You pretty much consider your opening fully complete and that you are technically in the middle game when you have your rooks connected. So pretty much white and black just need to do the same thing. They need to move this queen for white and for black, and then they've pretty much technically completed their development. But, the big thing about it is both of their kings are very safe. They are castled. So, I mean, as you can see, they both are pretty much following all of the principles you need to follow when you're playing a game of chess, not being neglectful. So we got knight to f6, queen taking on d8. And this is the novelty of the game. I think, if I'm not mistaken, knight to e5 was what was played before. And then so we see we got a queen taking on d8, gives us the novelty of the game. So it's so novelty. Rook f takes d8. So literally what I just got done saying a second ago, they took care of that. So it's almost like they were listening to me. They said, hey, man, this guy Kelvin, that's down there, he told us what to do. So, I mean, thank you guys for listening. Anyways, so in this position here, what I want you guys to go ahead and do is pause the video and see what is a good move for white. And there's 2 reasons that I'm asking this question. And I'm going to see who can guess it. So go ahead and do so real quick. Okay, cool. So For those of you that have watched my videos, you guys know I talk about a pig on the 7th or a rook on the 7th all the time. You know, that's a pig on the 7th is a kind of a crude way to put it, but I mean that's literally what it's called. Pig on the 7th, you know. It's just a little funny idiom for it or whatever. So anyway, for those of you that guess rook to c7, you would be absolutely correct. But like I said, there's two reasons why I want you to pick rook to c7. So not only do I want you to be like, hey man, you know what? You want to put the rook on the 7th. It's natural. Bam, that's good. But then also, the fact is too, there is a little bit of a tactic kind of involved in the idea behind it. And that is this bishop and this knight are both undefended. And you've basically placed a fork on these two pieces. Now, it is not the winning of a piece. You're not going to win a piece because of it. But the idea behind it is something you always want to be looking for when you're playing your own games. So always try to notice when you have two pieces on a diagonal or right next to each other, something like that, you know, especially when you have pawns that you can try to build up and stuff like that. It definitely could be good. But the beautiful, perfect way to get out of this scenario is actually taking bishop takes f3. And then you do your own kind of little counter attack. And then, of course, you know, you don't want to take here with the rook because you're going to be taking here. And you're going to be forking. Black is going to be putting their own super fork in the scenario. So you don't want to allow that. So we got bishop takes f3, knight e to d5. You know, just in time, you know, and you have this knight here protecting this knight, so you're good to go. You're also putting a little attack on this pawn here. So we got rook taking a7. The rook takes a7. You got knight taking a8. And I'm going to show you what was played in the game, but then I'll also kind of show you like a little side variation. We have rook to a8 in the game. And that's taking advantage of the fact that this bishop is not really fully live on this diagonal because this knight is, you know, in the way. So you have a perfect opportunity to put that, you know, move down. And then, you know, of course, you're going to be trying to grab this pawn behind the knight once it moves. So the knight does move, knight to c6. And then you take the rook on, you take the pawn on a2. You got h3, just making sure that you don't have any knight jumps. As I'm always saying, you know, restricting the movements of the knights is very key when you get into a middle game, really at any stage in the game. But, you know, that's the main thing you have to worry about is knights jumping around because knights can be very annoying. Anybody who plays Bullet or Blitz online, knights are really annoying. So, I mean, just get rid of them. But if we back up, like I said, after knight takes a7, something else that was possible was knight taking b4. And then after a3, just putting knight to a2. And then you're probably looking at something like, you know, knight here and then knight here. You know, with the same kind of idea. I mean, of course, you can always move the knight back over here, too, from there. So, you know, it's pretty much more of the same thing. So, going back, like I said, we had h3. Then we got g5. Rook coming to c1, getting it on the only open. Well, actually, there is another open file, but the black rook has that one. So, you know, the c file seems logical to take that. So, we got the rook to b2. Got rook to a1. Knight takes b4. Rook to a8 with check. We got king to g7. Knight comes down to e5, you know, being a little bit tricky because, you know, we're thinking about, you know, maybe trying to put some pressure on this f7 square. As I always say, even I just said it last video, f7 and f2 are weak points. So, you know, this rook being on this rank perfectly is doing that for that because now this king can't really move. And the same thing with this rook being on this file, on this rank. Same deal. So we got rook to a2, recognizing that this is possibly coming up. So we got rook to b8. Rook to a7, make sure that we defend against it. The rook takes on b6, knight b to d5. We have bishop takes d5, knight takes d5. We got rook down to b1. We got rook to c7, rook to a1. We got knight up to e7. We got g4, knight comes to g6. So, I mean, you know, it's whether you trade or don't trade, but pretty much it pretty much ends up being around the same thing. So we got knight taking g6, king taking g6. We got king to g2. We got king to f6, king to f3. Got king to g6, king to g3, king to f6, king to f3, king to g6, king to g3, king to f6, and then king to f3. And we do have a draw by threefold repetition. As you guys can see, there's not really a lot of progress that can be made for either side. You know, you have the situation where basically, I mean, it's like literally identical on the king side over here. And you always have a problem with the rooks penetrating onto the 7th rank. You know, oops, this one. Bam, that and that. You do have some backward pawns and stuff that you kind of have to worry about. So it's really, really hard to move up without kind of cutting your king off from the scenario. So in light of that, This is a fairly drawn type of a situation they've gotten into. The entire game was pretty level the entire time. So if this was a situation where they were trying to do a draw and this was just something that they just kind of cooked up, I at least appreciate that they did it for like a long time. Like, I don't like those little quick 10 to 12 move draws. Like, at least make it look like a game. You know, that's what I want to see personally, but that's just me. But all of my other people in the Philippines, Maayong Buntog, let me see. Mayad na agahan, 9-bag na bigat, Masantos ya kabusan, Buenos dias. I got Maayong aga, and let me see, make sure I didn't leave nothing out. Marhe na aga. I believe that's how you say it, because there's Maayong aga, so I'm pretty sure that's an aga when you say that. So Marhe na aga, and especially, you know, of course, to my people that are, you know, from Iran or speak Persian, Khayli mamnoon. Appreciate you guys very much. Assalamu alaikum and ma'asalama to you. That's a little Arabic, but you know, if you guys, any guys out there are Muslim, you know, I'm speaking to you, you guys understand what I'm talking about. Appreciate it very much. Leave more comments down below. Let me know what you want to see. And I will see you guys next time. All right.